Good morning. Today, I'm going to teach you the basics of photography and how to take better looking photos. It may seem daunting at first using your settings on a camera, but I will teach you in the simplest form. There are generally three basic fundamentals that you need to know when taking your pictures. They are called ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. In this diagram here, I'm going to explain what each function does and the effect it has on your pictures. The overall focus on all three of these is that they change how bright or dark your image is. On the left side of the page, it's showing your image getting brighter, and on the right, darker. The higher the ISO, the brighter your image. Same concept for the other two. The ISO, more specifically, changes the amount of grain in your image. The shutter speed affects how fast you're taking the picture, and the aperture focuses on the depth or focus of the photo. ISO is basically how much light hits your camera sensor. So the lower the number, the more crisp and dark the image is. But when you raise that number too much, it'll make your image brighter, showing a lot of noise and grain on your subject. As you can see in the diagram, the subject on the left is more in focus and gives the viewer a specific point to look at in the photo, while on the right hand side, there is no distinct point of interest for the viewer, and even though it is a brighter image, there is no clarity since there is too much light showing. The main lesson with ISO is the lower, the better for most cases. Shutter speed is exactly what it sounds like, which is the speed at which your camera shutter moves at. The higher the shutter speed, such as half a second, will show blur and no focus on your image, since the subject would have moved even slightly during the half second. On the other hand, if you're shooting at 1/5000th of a second, it'll be very snappy and quick to capture your subject all in focus. For example, if you're taking pictures at a soccer game, you would want a fast shutter speed, since everything else around the camera is moving quickly. But let's say you were taking pictures of the moon. A fast shutter speed would only ruin the photos by letting too much light in and being fast when your subject is barely moving. One thing to note is that the longer the shutter speed, the more light is being let into the camera. The final topic I will be talking about is aperture. Out of all three of the fundamentals, this one is more tricky for some beginners. But the best way to comprehend it on simple terms is it being the eye of the camera. As you can see on the diagram, both subjects are standing in front of the same background, but with different settings. On the left shows the aperture being at 1.4, and on the right 22, which is massively higher, making it a more flat image. So the lower number the aperture, the more light is let in, and the higher number brings in less light. Yet, the main focus on aperture is the depth of field for the image. If you are looking to take a photo having everything in focus, you'd want a higher aperture. But if you want to have only the subject in focus, you would want a lower aperture.